Hello class, we're reviewing now touch. The touch command is commonly used for creating empty files, although that wasn't its intended purpose. Its intended purpose was to update the access time of a particular file. Now, because when the file doesn't exist, it ends up creating the file, we end up using it for creating files. So if we want to create an empty file, all we have to do is type touch and then the name of the file. So I'm going to create a file called playlist.txt. If we type ls, you notice that a file called playlist.txt was created. Now let's create several files. So we're going to do touch. I'm going to create one file inside pictures called mylist.txt. I'm going to create one inside downloads called games.doc. And then I'm going to create one in videos called, let's see, todo.lst. Now if I type ls, pictures, and also downloads, and also videos, notice that in downloads I created a game called games.doc. In pictures there is a file called mylist.txt, and in videos there is a file called todo.lst. And the same, almost all the things that I mentioned earlier with mkdir applies to touch. For instance, I can do touch my groceries.txt, and then it will create a file called mygroceries.txt with a space in between. And that's about it. Now I'm going to take the opportunity to show you how to remove files as well. So to remove files, all we have to do is type rm and then provide the name of the file. So I'm going to remove mygroceries.txt, and notice that the file is gone. Now let's remove playlist.txt, and the file is gone. Now let's remove from downloads game.doc, and notice that when I do ls downloads, the file isn't there anymore. Now that is to delete files. When it comes to deleting folders, we have to remember two things. First, Linux cannot remove non-empty folders. And two, the remove command without any option cannot remove directories. So let's create a directory and we're going to call this games. Then inside games, we're going to create a file called games_list.txt. Right? Now, if we try to remove games using the rm command, we get an error. Remove cannot remove games because it is a directory. So if we use remove directory, which is the command used for removing empty directories, notice that we get a different error. Remove directory failed because directory is not empty. So in order for this to work, we first need to remove every file inside games and then remove directory. Now it works. Now this is a lot of steps just to remove a folder. We have an option to make this easier and faster, and it is remove -r, that stands for recursive, which means inside the directory that you give it, delete every file that is in there, and then come out and delete the directory. So let's create the directory one more time in mkdir games. And then inside games, so I'm just going to go inside games. Here I'm going to create a couple of files. I'm going to touch file 1, file 2, file 3, and also let's create a directory mkdir my older games, right? And now if we do ls, we have a bunch of stuff inside games. I'm going to go back one more time, and I'm going to try to remove games. And as expected, it cannot do because it is a directory. And if I do remove directory, it's not going to work either because it's not empty. But when I do remove -r games, it works because it works recursively. It was going to go inside games, it's going to clean it out, and then it's going to delete games. Now remove -r is capable of removing both empty and non-empty directory. So if you want, always use remove -r when you're removing directories. Just be very careful when you remove things from the command line. Now, let's do it one more time. first I'm gonna create, let's do ls, what we got here. So we're gonna create a folder inside downloads, and we're gonna call this movies. Then we're gonna do touch, downloads, movies. And here we're gonna call 90s underscore movies dot lst. Right, so it's gonna create a text file inside movies called 90s movies. Let's remove this with remove -r, downloads, movies, and then 90s movies. Up, movies, and that's it. This is gonna get rid of the directory movies, but it's gonna leave downloads alone. If we do ls downloads, notice that there is no such a file such as movies in there because we removed it. That's the remove command. Here are some examples of the remove command. Feel free to practice them as you wish. And here is a practice. Now, we are gonna do this practice in this video. In your home directory, create a directory called website. So we're gonna do clear mkdir website. Inside website, create two directories, a script and assets. So we're gonna do mkdir website, a script, and then website assets. Inside website, create a file called index.html. So we're gonna do touch website index.html. Inside assets, we're gonna create a file called image.png. So touch website assets image.png. And inside the scripts, create a file called script.js. So we're gonna touch website script script.js. Then we're gonna display a tree of website. So for that, we use the tree command and we call it website. All my files have been created successfully. Remove a script and image.png, and we need to do it in a single command. So we're gonna do rm assets, website assets, and then image, and then we're gonna type again website script, then a script.js. Done. Now we're gonna remove a script and assets. So we're gonna do rm-r website script, and then website assets. Done. And finally, we're gonna remove the website directory. rm-r website. And we're done. To practice these commands, same thing with mkdir. Create files and remove them. Create folders, put files inside those folders, and then try to get rid of everything. Just create and clean up, create and clean up, until you get familiar with the commands and how they operate. I see you in the next video. If you have any question, don't forget to Slack me.